Music Collaboration.
Hi and welcome to an introduction to MuCol. MuCol stands for Music Collaboration, and it is basically a couple of scripts that are being executed within Coco's Reaper. Reaper is a full-blown DAW. As a matter of fact, it is one of the finest DAWs that I know. It has a very professional set of functions for recording, mixing and mastering, and above all, it is very affordable. So it's definitely, if you don't use it already, worthwhile to check it out as a second option in your music production work. Here's how I came upon the idea for MuCol. I'm working in a band and we were practicing on a regular basis, and I thought it would be convenient if we recorded those sessions and made those recordings available to everybody. Now, rather than having everybody work with the same single copy of a Reaper project, I decided to derive instrument-specific project from that, let's call it a main project, and copy the recordings to those individual projects and distribute those over the internet so that everybody involved had them available at home or wherever they were practicing and working on this song. And besides the instrument-specific recordings, I also made stems from the other instruments, so mixdowns from each instrument, and copied those as well, so that you had those recordings from the other instruments available as backtracks. As you can imagine, to do this manually was quite a bit of work, so I spent like 1, 2 or more hours after every practice session to copy around recordings and backtracks so that we had those projects available. Now, this is where MuCol comes in. It automates all those steps. You can mark the tracks within a Reaper project, execute the scripts, and MuCol takes care of all the copying, the generation of the backtracks, and so on. So I thought, well, could be that these functions that MuCol provides are not only interesting for me, but maybe for other people that are producing music out there and need a way to share recordings and collect recordings. Let me show you how MuCol works with the help of a couple of slides. So let's see what MuCol can do for us and how it works. The whole system is based on a song production process, which consists of 4 stages. We have the song idea, so a composer puts together an idea and does some recordings to reflect this idea. And then we have a phase where the musicians or the band do recordings, and finally we mix and master the recordings so that we have a distributable MP3 or WAV file of this song. What we also can do is, in case we want to perform the song on stage, for example, we can use the system to play along and practice. So let's look at the first stage. The composer creates a Reaper project, which is referred to as the main project. He places those recordings within *rec, a *rec folder track. That is one of the big advantages of Reaper, that you can organize your recordings in folders, and you use those folder tracks as buses to sum up particular tracks underneath a folder track. Those folder tracks can now also be used to define which tracks or recordings are used to create an instrument project from. So let's say we have a folder track underneath Asterix Rec called Guitar, and under Guitar we have a whole number of tracks which holds the actual recordings. So we mark the guitar track, and from that track an instrument project is called, named after that folder track, guitar in this case, and this track, including all tracks underneath it, are copied over to this instrument project. An Asterix Rec folder track is created there as well, and the copied tracks are placed underneath it. So now the musician is ready to go and do some recordings of his own. You could also do further recordings in the main project. For example, if you have a band session and do some rehearsal there. From those recordings, again, you could copy recordings to existing instrument projects, or if the instrument project does not exist, which is decided based on the track name, a new instrument project is created. Now what we also need to do recordings is the backtracks, so we need to have all other instruments available to us so that we can play along. This is true in the main project if we want to do some rehearsal. For example, in the case when a particular musician is missing, we could use the respective backtracks and still practice. And in the instrument project, we obviously also need all other instruments that are part of this song production project available to us. So we create those backtracks. Backtracks are stems, so mixdowns of particular tracks. And those backtracks can be generated within the main project as well as in the instrument project. And whenever we execute the MuCol script in the main and the instrument project, those backtracks are synchronized so that we have the latest versions of the recordings available to everybody involved. Now let's move on to the mix and master stage. It is possible to copy tracks back from the instrument projects into the main project for mixing purposes. When we mix a song, we obviously don't want to use stemmed versions of the recordings. It would be by far more convenient to have the original versions of the tracks, unless, which might also be the case, that a certain musician uses plugins that the owner of the main project does not possess and does not have installed. In this case, obviously, the musician has to create stems of his recordings so that the owner of the main project can actually use the recordings when mixing the song. Finally, also from these copied tracks that end up, by the way, in Asterix Mix folder track, we can create instrument project or copy recordings back to the instrument project, and we can also create backtracks from those tracks under the Asterix Mix folder track. And finally, we can use the instrument project as well as the main project for practice purposes. In the main project, as I said, we could do some band sessions and do some further recordings together as a band. And in the instrument project, we could prepare for a gig, by using the instrument projects to play along. So we have three functions in which MuCol provides. We can create instrument project and copy recordings from the main project to the instrument project. Number two, we can generate backtracks and synchronize those. And number three, we can copy back tracks from the instrument projects to the main project for mixing purposes. Now let's take a quick look at how the instrument projects are shared over the internet, because obviously that would make the whole system valuable. So we have the main project with the recordings and the backtracks. We generate the instrument project, but the composer and owner doesn't do anything with those. But because this instrument project resides in a self-containing directory, it can easily be shared and made available over a cloud service such as OneDrive or Google Drive or iCloud or whatever it might be, and then synchronize that directory to the cloud storage, and the musician can download it from the cloud storage to his local hard drive, and that way work with this project on his system and in his environment. And because the instrument project is self-contained, which means it has all the sound files and everything that that is needed to actually work with the project in it, and that way it can easily be shared. So the possibilities of MuCol are almost endless. Nowadays, that almost every musician has his own little home studio, like the one that I have around me here in my little flat. It is very handy to have a system that allows you to derive from a main project individualized projects and copy back and forward recordings and backtracks. So for example, if you would like to work together with a musician anywhere on the planet, you could use you could generate a project for that musician, share it over the internet, and that way work with him or her to get some recordings for your production project. Or a teacher could use it to work together with his students and have them practice at home with their version of a particular song, and the teacher could then get recordings from that student and check them and give feedback and so on and so forth. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you've seen, then please go on to the webpage mucol.ch and download the scripts. On this web page you'll also find videos about how to install the scripts and configure them within Reaper, and you'll find videos explaining in detail how the system is used and how it works. That's it for now. Have fun. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Music collaboration.